Look at me, the beautiful bride on her wedding day, now kneeling on the cold bathroom floor, my expensive white silk dress ripped down to my waist. To my right, the sound of cheerful dance music echoes from the reception hall, while against my left ribs is the cold steel barrel of a gun held by my own father-in-law. He leans in close, his breath reeking of alcohol and contempt. You have two choices, Margaret. 1. You walk out that back door and disappear forever. 2. I pull this trigger right here, and I tell everyone you were a damaged woman who killed herself out of shame. I hold my breath, tears blurring my makeup, waiting for the bang that would end my life at just 18. But he doesn't know that behind that oak door, another monster, a monster of justice, is about to awaken. Hello, my precious dears. Come, sit down. Today, Grandma is going to tell you about that fateful day. The day my wedding dress was stained with blood, but my soul was reborn. But before I start turning back the pages of memory, I want to know where my beloved grandkids are listening to this story from. Please leave a comment with the name of the city or country where you are right now down below. I will read them all and leave a heart for each one, so we can feel that no matter the distance, we are still one big family gathered together. And now, let's travel back in time to 1968. You must be thinking, oh, how lovely, the wedding day. But mine, my dears, my wedding began with joy and almost ended in tragedy. I almost lost everything, my life, love, hope, because of a man who hated me just for not being born rich. But before getting to that part of the story, let me go back in time and tell you how it all began. You know, dears, to understand what happened on my wedding day, I need to go back to the beginning, when I was just a girl with braids, running barefoot through the dusty streets of Yakima, over in eastern Washington. I was born in 1949, in a simple 3-room house on Main Street, close to the Yakima River. My dad, Mr. Frank Miller, was a welder. He had a small workshop where he fixed everything: gates, fences, iron pots, horseshoes for the mules that were still around in those times. My mom, Mrs. Barbara, was a seamstress. From her, I inherited the profession that supported me all my life. I remember her sitting at that black Singer machine with the gold pedal, sewing dresses for the ladies of the town. The noise of the machine was the music of our house. Click, click, click. And the smell of new fabric mixed with the coffee on the wood stove. It is a memory that warms my heart to this day. We were 5 children. I was the middle one. There was James and Patricia, older, and after me came Robert and Susan. Our house was tight, a single room for the 5 of us, with 3 wooden beds that my dad had made himself. I shared the bed with Susan, who was the youngest. She had the habit of sucking her thumb while sleeping and twirling her hair on her little finger. Sometimes I woke up at night and watched her sleep, so tiny, so innocent. The routine at home started early. My dad woke up when the neighbor's rooster crowed the first time. It must have been around 5 inches the morning. My mom got up with him, lit the wood stove, and when we woke up, there was hot coffee and biscuits waiting on the table. After coffee, everyone went their own way. The boys helped my dad in the shop, and my sisters and I stayed with my mom learning to sew, wash clothes in the laundry tub, cook. But it wasn't all work. Right, my dears? We had our childhood joys. On the banks of the Yakima River, the bunch of boys and girls from the street and I played hide and seek among the trees, hopscotch drawn with charcoal on the dirt ground, ring around the rosy. I was good at climbing trees. I climbed the apple tree in the yard faster than any boy. And my mom always shouted from below, "Margaret, get down from there, girl. That's not ladylike." It was on one of those afternoons playing at the river. I was already 17, back in 1966, that I met Timothy. Ah, my dears, when I saw that boy for the first time, he had come from Port Townsend to visit some cousins who lived in Yakima. Tall, elegant, in a light suit, even with the heat, hair slicked back, honey-colored eyes that shone when he smiled. I was on the riverbank washing clothes with my mom and sisters, with our skirts gathered up to our knees, feet in the cool water. He passed by the riverbank with his cousins and stopped. He asked for permission to drink water from our well. My mom, always hospitable, offered him a glass, but it was me he looked at when he said thanks. "Thank you very much, ma'am," he said to my mother, then turned those honey-colored eyes to me. "And you, miss, you have a smile that lights up this whole river." I turned red as a beet, and my sisters were all giggling behind their hands. From that day on, he looked for every excuse to show up in Yakima. He said he had business, that he had to visit cousins, that he had to do I don't know what. But the truth is he came to see me. He began to court me the old-fashioned way. Do you know how it was? He asked my dad for permission to talk to me in the living room, always with my mom watching nearby. He brought flowers from the garden of his cousin's house. He lent me books because he had studied. He was a lawyer, a fancy thing. Timothy was a man of value, my dears, gentle, polite, always respectful. He had a soft voice that calmed me, large and careful hands. When he looked at me, I felt I was the most important woman in the whole world. He treated me as if I were a princess, even though I was just a simple girl from a welder and seamstress's family. But deep down, my dears, a small voice whispered that I didn't belong in his world. Every time I looked at his smooth hands, so different from my father's calloused ones, or heard the refined way he spoke, I felt a knot of insecurity tighten in my stomach. I often asked myself, why me? Why would a prince choose the girl with coal dust under her fingernails? I lived in constant fear that one day he would wake up, rub his eyes, and realize he had made a mistake. That fear, my dears, was the crack in my armor that his father would later try to shatter. For 6 months, he made that trip every week from Port Townsend to Yakima. It was almost 180 miles of road, about 3 to 4 hours of travel in the pickup truck he borrowed. All that just to stay 2 or 3 hours talking to me in the living room. My dad started to appreciate him. He said he was a hard-working man, of his word, of respect. My mom also grew fond of him, even with that distrust that every mom has of her daughter's suitor. But there was a problem, my dears, a big problem. Timothy's father, Dr. Charles Montgomery, was a rich man from Port Townsend. He had land, he had money, he had an important name in the city. And when Timothy told him he was in love with a girl from Yakima, a welder's daughter, oh my God in heaven, the world collapsed. Dr. Charles came to Yakima only once. He stopped his car, a big black shiny car, in front of our humble little house. He didn't even get out of the car properly. He called my dad to the window and said loudly for everyone to hear, "Mr. Frank, you seem to be an honest man. Then you must know that that girl there is no good for my son. He is going to marry a girl from a good family, not just anyone who wants to grab our money." My dad, a man with a short fuse, almost went at him. It was my mom who stopped him. I was inside, hearing everything with tears falling. Timothy wasn't there. Dr. Charles had come in secret. After that day, the father-in-law tried everything to separate us. He offered money to my family if we disappeared. He even showed up at our house a second time, but this time to talk to me directly. He called me a gold digger, self-interested. He said I would never be worthy of the Montgomery name, but Timothy didn't give up on me and I didn't give up on him. We loved each other, my dears, truly, in that way that today seems to no longer exist. In 1967, when I turned 18, he officially proposed to me. He knelt in the living room of my house with my parents and my brothers all watching, and said, "Margaret, I don't care that my dad has disinherited me. I don't care if I have to start from zero. I want you by my side for the rest of my life." I said yes, crying, and my mom cried with me, and even my dad, who was tough, wiped a tear in secret. We set the wedding for March 1968. Dr. Charles didn't want to pay for anything, so my parents got together with Timothy's cousins, and we did a potluck fundraiser. My mom sewed my wedding dress herself. It was simple but elegant, made of white satin, with delicate lace on the neckline. I felt like the prettiest woman in the world when I put on that dress. The reception was planned for Timothy's cousin's house in Port Townsend, since we were going to live in that town afterwards. It was an intimate gathering, just close family and a few friends. The day before the wedding, Dr. Charles sent a message through an employee. He was going to attend. Timothy and I were surprised. We thought that maybe he had finally accepted, but I should have noticed, my dears, that a man like that doesn't change overnight. I should have been suspicious of so much calm, so much silence, because what he was planning was much worse than simply not going to the wedding. The wedding day dawned beautiful, my dears. It was a Saturday in March, blue sky without a single cloud, that nice Washington sun that doesn't burn too much. I woke up at Timothy's cousin's house at 5 inches the morning. I couldn't sleep from so much excitement. My mom traveled with me and slept in the same room along with my sisters. They woke up with me, and we stayed there talking quietly so as not to wake the rest of the house, laughing nervously, me shaking like a leaf. "My daughter, are you sure?" my mom asked me for the 1,000th time, holding my hands. "There is still time to go back to Yakima, to forget all this. That man, Timothy's father, is dangerous. Margaret, a man with money and power is capable of anything when they cross him." I squeezed her hands back. "Mom, I love Timothy and he loves me. Dr. Charles is going to have to accept it sooner or later. He can't be mad at his son forever, right?" Ah, my dears, how wrong I was, how innocent I still was, thinking that love would conquer all, that people had soft hearts. I had no idea what that man was capable of. The morning passed in a blur. My mom and sisters helped me get ready. I bathed with warm water. I used that rose soap my mom had bought, especially for the occasion. Patricia did my hair, made all those curls that were in fashion, secured them with pins and lots of hairspray. Susan painted my nails a soft pink, and my mom. My mom was teary-eyed the whole time, fixing my dress, putting on my veil, saying I was the most beautiful bride Port Townsend had ever seen. The dress she had sewn was a work of art, my dears. Shiny white satin fitted at the waist, the full skirt that reached the floor, long lace sleeves, round neckline, also with delicate lace. When I saw myself in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I looked like a princess from those movies they played at the town cinema. The ceremony was set for 3 inches the afternoon at St. Mary Star of the Sea, that beautiful Catholic church right here in Port Townsend. Since I was raised Catholic, it was important to me to be married by a priest, and Timothy agreed without hesitation. The party afterwards would be at Timothy's cousin's house, who had a large hall in the back, perfect for receiving guests. There weren't many, about 60 people in total. My family from Yakima, Timothy's cousins, and some friends. The cousins' neighbors who helped us with the organization. When we arrived at the church, my heart was racing. My dad was waiting at the door, all dressed up in the brown suit he had bought for the occasion. The first suit of his life? Can you imagine? He was nervous too, touching his tie knot, running his hand through his hair. "My daughter," he said when he saw me, and his voice cracked, You are too beautiful, just like your mom the day I married her." He gave me his arm, and we entered the church slowly. Timothy was standing at the altar, next to Father O'Malley. When he saw me entering, his face lit up completely. He smiled in that way that made my heart jump, and I saw a tear roll down his face. In that moment, my dears, I was certain I was doing the right thing. That man truly loved me. The ceremony was beautiful. The minister spoke about love, commitment, building a life together. We exchanged rings, simple gold bands that Timothy had bought with the money he saved working. When he put the ring on my finger, he whispered just for me to hear, "Forever, my love, you and me, against the world." And then came the moment that scared me the most, the time for the speak now or forever hold your peace. My heart froze. I looked to the back of the church. Dr. Charles was sitting there in the last row, alone, with that serious face, those cold eyes looking at me with so much hate that I felt a chill. But he said nothing. He remained silent. The minister waited a few seconds and continued, "I declare you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Timothy's kiss was soft, respectful, full of love. The whole church applauded. I was married. I was officially Margaret Montgomery. We left the church under a shower of rice that our friends threw, everyone laughing, taking photos. At the exit of the church, Dr. Charles passed by me. He stopped very close to me, so close I could smell the expensive cigar he smoked. He didn't look at his son, only looked at me and whispered softly so no one else would hear. His eyes were cold, devoid of any fatherly pride. He leaned in, the smell of expensive tobacco clinging to his suit, and his voice was like ice. "Enjoy it while it lasts, girl, because it won't last. That is a bone-chilling warning to receive on what should be the happiest day of your life." Just when Margaret thought she was safe, the real danger was lurking right beside her. "You won't believe the trap, Doctor. Charles is about to spring on her, so don't go anywhere." I felt a cold chill down my spine, but I tried to ignore it. It was my wedding day. I wasn't going to let that man ruin it. We all went to the cousin's house. The hall was decorated with white and yellow flowers. There was a long table full of food, snacks, fried chicken, biscuits, cake, sweets, sodas, beer. My mom and Timothy's cousins had prepared everything with so much love. There was even a small dance floor with those colored lights that blinked. The party started lively. There was music playing on a record player, people talking, laughing, eating. Timothy and I opened the dance. It was a waltz, Fascination, that romantic song we had chosen. He guided me around the floor with such delicacy, holding me by the waist, looking into my eyes. I felt like I was floating. Dr. Charles arrived at the party an hour later. He entered without being invited. Technically, he was the groom's father, so no one was going to stop him. But his presence changed the atmosphere immediately. Conversations became quieter, forced. He stayed in a corner drinking whiskey, alone, just observing, with that snake gaze waiting to strike. I tried not to pay attention to him. I danced, ate, talked to everyone, thanked the guests for coming. Timothy was happy introducing his new wife to friends, receiving congratulations. He even joked with friends about the honeymoon. We were going to spend a few days at a simple inn right there in Port Townsend. Nothing too luxurious. But for us, it was going to be perfect. It was almost 6 inches the afternoon when it happened. I was near the cake table talking to my mom and Timothy's cousin, Olivia. The hall was full, loud music, people laughing. Suddenly I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Dr. Charles. "Margaret," he said with that fake smile, that tone of voice too calm, dangerous. "I need to speak with you in private about the wedding gift." My stomach tightened, but Olivia and my mom were watching, and I didn't want to make a scene. "Wedding gift?" I asked, confused. "Yes, it's in the office in the reserved room back there. Come with me. It's quick." I looked around looking for Timothy. He was on the other side of the room, talking animatedly with his friends. With his back to me, "I prefer to wait for my husband," I started to say. "But Doctor," Charles squeezed my shoulder tightly, uncomfortably. "It's a surprise for him too. Come now, girl, or you're going to make me angry on my son's wedding day." My mom looked suspicious, but Dr. Charles was already leading me down the hallway, hand firm on my back, pushing me gently, but with determination. "You know, my dears, back in those days, the weight of a wealthy man's presence was heavy indeed. It made simple folks like my family feel so small, too terrified to cause a scene or embarrass the powerful in-laws on such a happy day. Sometimes, simple politeness is a deadly trap that paralyzes us right when we should be screaming." The back hallway was narrow, poorly lit. It led to the bathrooms and that office. The further we moved away from the hall, the more muffled the sound of the music, of the voices became. My heart started beating faster. Something was wrong. I felt it. We passed by the bathrooms, the men's on the left, the women's on the right, and it was when we were right in front of the women's bathroom door that he stopped. He didn't continue to the office. He looked to both sides of the empty hallway. Everyone was at the party, and then, my dears, was when his mask fell completely. He pushed me hard. He pushed me inside the women's bathroom, making me trip on the hem of the dress. He entered with me and locked the door from the inside with a sinister click that echoed in the silence. "What are you doing, sir?" My voice came out trembling, scared, and that was when he showed who he really was. He shoved me against the bathroom sink, my dears. My waist hit the marble edge with such force that it hurt, knocked the wind out of me. The bathroom was small, cramped, with that strong smell of disinfectant mixed with cheap perfume. There was a small window up high, but it was closed. A yellow bulb, weak, illuminated everything in a sinister way, casting dark shadows in the corners. "You're crazy! Let me go!" I tried to scream, but he put his large hand over my mouth, stifling my scream. His hand smelled of cigars and whiskey, and I felt nauseous. "Shut your damn mouth," he growled in my ear. His voice was different now. Gone was that fake calm, that facade of politeness. It was the voice of a man who had real hate, pure hate. "Do you think I was going to let a gold digger like you enter my family? Do you think I was going to let you dishonor the Montgomery name?" I tried to struggle, but he was strong, much stronger than me. I was trapped between his body and the sink, with no room to move. The mirror in front of me showed my reflection, the veil twisted, eyes wide with terror, the makeup my sister had done with such care, starting to run with the tears. I am not. I tried to speak when he took his hand off my mouth a bit, but he squeezed again. Don't interrupt me. He shook me, slamming my back against the sink again. The pain radiated through my spine. You are just like your mom, like your family of starving nobodies. You saw that my son had a future, money, and they sent you to grab him. But I won't let it happen. You are going to leave here and disappear from his life. I shook my head, trying to say no, trying to make him understand that I loved Timothy truly, that it wasn't for the money, but how to explain love to a man who only understood power and control. Finally, he took his hand off my mouth. I gasped for air, desperate, but before I could scream again, he turned me to face him, holding me by the shoulders with such force that I felt his nails digging through the fabric of the dress. Look at me when I'm talking to you, he hissed. His eyes were bloodshot, red from the whiskey he had drunk, but still focused, calculating, dangerous. You have two options, girl. First, you go out that back door, now. Disappear. Go back to that hole in Yakima and forget my son exists. I'll give you $5,000 for you to start a new life, far from here, far from him. I will never. I started, but he interrupted me again. Let me finish. He shook me again, harder. This time, my head hit the mirror behind me lightly. Second option, you stay stubborn. Keep wanting to stay with him, and I end you. I end your reputation, your family, everything. I'm going to spread all over the city that you are a prostitute who sold herself to my son, that you were already pregnant by another when you got married. I'm going to destroy your dad's name, make him lose the shop. Timothy will never believe those lies. I managed to speak, voice coming out high, desperate. He loves me. He knows who I am. His laugh was worse than the screams, a low, cruel laugh that echoed in that small bathroom. Love. Do you think love beats money? Beats power? My poor naive girl. He is my son. I raised him. He will believe me, not you. He let go of one of my shoulders and ran his hand over his face as if he were tired, as if I were an annoying insect he needed to crush. Timothy is my son. I'm going to make him see the truth. It was at that moment, my dears, that I saw something shine at his waist inside his jacket. Something metallic, dark. My heart stopped. He noticed I had seen and smiled. That smile I will never forget. It was the smile of someone who knew he had won, who had all the control. Ah, this. He opened the jacket a bit, revealing the object tucked in the waistband of his pants. It was small, heavy, deadly. It's just insurance, you know? In case you remain stubborn. My whole body began to tremble. It wasn't just fear. It was absolute terror. That kind of terror that paralyzes, that makes you forget how to breathe. Please. My voice came out like a whisper. Please, no. I just want what you want. It doesn't matter. He pushed me against the sink again, more violent now. And then, my dears, he did something that marked me to this day, that humiliated me in a way I never thought possible. He grabbed the neckline of my dress, that beautiful dress my mom had sewn with so much love, with so much dedication, and pulled. The sound of the fabric ripping was horrible, too loud in that silence. The delicate lace of the neckline came undone like paper, and the white satin opened, ripping almost to the waist. I tried to hold the dress, tried to cover myself, but he slapped my hands away. Look at that, he said with disgust in his voice. Not so pretty without the fancy clothes. What do you think Timothy is going to think when he knows you left here with your dress ripped? What is he going to think happened? No. The tears were falling freely now, wetting what was left of the dress. Please, don't do this. He's going to think you left with another man. Dr. Charles continued speaking slowly, calculating every word chosen to hurt me more. He's going to think you were a tramp from the beginning, that you were never good enough, and he's going to thank me for trying to warn him. I tried to pull the torn edges of satin together with trembling fingers, but the fabric slipped away, just like my dignity. In that cold, harsh light, I didn't just feel naked, I felt dirty. I felt like the trash he believed I was. Have any of you, my dears, ever had someone crush your spirit with words or actions until you truly believed you were the worthless one? That feeling. It hurts more than any physical blow. It makes you feel disgusted with your own skin, even though you are the victim. If you've ever felt that way, leave a heart in the comments below. Grandma will pray for your healing. My mind began to fracture, my dears. A terrible, dark thought took root in my soul right then and there. Maybe he is right. Maybe I deserve this for dreaming too high. It wasn't just the dress he had ripped. He had torn apart the image of the woman I wanted to be. I looked at myself in that shattered mirror, and I didn't see a bride anymore. I saw a victim. Small, powerless, and utterly alone. "So, are you going out that back door?" he said, pointing to the small service door in the corner of the bathroom that led to the alley behind the house. "You are going to leave? You are going to go and never come back? Or—" He stopped speaking, and slowly, very slowly, put his hand inside his jacket. My heart raced. "No, no, please." He took out the small object, black, cold. He pointed it at me, holding it with a firm hand, without shaking. The dark barrel of the gun looked like a black hole sucking away all my hope. It is absolutely terrifying to imagine being trapped like this, with no way out and your life on the line. Margaret's fairy tale has officially turned into a horror story, but help might be closer than she thinks. Let's see if anyone can hear her cry for help before it's too late. "Or I solve the problem right here," he completed, the voice too calm, dead. "I'm going to say it was suicide, that you couldn't handle the pressure, that you were unbalanced. They'll believe me. They always believe me." It sounds insane, doesn't it? How could he possibly get away with murder in a crowded house? But that is the terrifying arrogance of absolute power, my dears. He truly believed his money and status could bend reality itself, turning a cold-blooded murder into a tragic play where he was the only director. I couldn't breathe. The bathroom walls seemed to be closing in around me. I thought of my mom out there waiting, not knowing what was happening. I thought of Timothy smiling with friends, happy, never imagining his own father was here destroying me. I thought of everything I had dreamed. The married life, the children we were going to have, the simple house but full of love, all ending there, in that stinking bathroom, at the hands of a man who hated me just for not being born rich. "Choose," he ordered, pressing the object against my ribs on the left side. The pressure was strong, painful, brutal. I felt something cracking inside me, maybe a rib breaking. I don't know. The pain was so intense, my vision went dark at the edges. "Choose now. Do you leave, or do I make you leave in a coffin?" My voice wouldn't come out, throat closed. The object pressed harder, stronger, and the pain radiated through my whole chest. I couldn't think straight, could only feel the pain, feel the terror, feel the certainty I was going to die there. He brought his mouth close to my ear, breath hot and disgusting. "The groom doesn't need to know any of this, you know? He can think you left with another, or that you were a whore from the beginning. It's better this way for everyone." And then he pressed even harder, so hard I felt something inside me giving way, breaking. The pain was unbearable. I opened my mouth, gasping, trying to scream, trying to pull oxygen, but I couldn't. The world was spinning, turning black. It was when the scream came out, a sharp scream, of pure pain, of absolute despair that tore my throat and resonated in that bathroom like a death knell. And on the other side of the door, far away in the hall, someone heard. My scream echoed down that empty hallway, like the cry of a wounded animal, desperate, dying. And for a few seconds that seemed like an entire eternity, nothing happened. The silence after the scream was worse than the scream itself. "Doctor," Charles looked at me with those cold, calculating eyes, trying to hear beyond the door, calculating if anyone had heard, if anyone would come to investigate. The music in the hall was loud, one of those lively party songs, with people singing along, clapping, laughing. Maybe no one had heard anything. Maybe I was going to die there, and no one would ever know the truth. He relaxed the grip a little, moving that cold, hard object slightly away from my ribs. The pain throbbed, pulsed, radiating through my whole chest like waves of fire. Every breath was agony. I felt something warm and wet running down inside the dress. I didn't know if it was blood from some internal wound or if it was just sweat mixed with tears. My body in total panic. "Done," he said, voice returning to that controlled tone, dead as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just tortured me. "The circus act is over. Now you are going out that back door. You are going to disappear, and you are going to forget that." But he didn't finish the sentence, because we heard rapid, heavy footsteps running down the hallway, dress shoes hitting the wooden floor, getting closer, more urgent. "Margaret!" It was Timothy's voice, loud, desperate, breaking in half, hoarse from screaming my name so much. "Margaret, where are you? Margaret!" Dr. Charles turned white. The color literally disappeared from his face. For a second, just a second, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. It wasn't the fear of being physically hurt. It was the fear of being caught, of being discovered, of being exposed as the monster he really was. He quickly put the object inside his jacket, fixed his tie with trembling hands, took a step back, trying to get away from me, trying to create a distance that could be explained, trying to make it look innocent. But it was already too late. Too late to pretend, too late to lie. The bathroom door, that door he had closed so carefully, shook with a violent impact. Boom. The sound resonated through the tiled walls. Timothy was on the other side, not knocking, not asking, attacking the door, hitting it, kicking it, desperate. "Open this door!" he screamed, and his voice was different from everything I had heard in all those months of courtship, of soft conversations, of gentle words. He was no longer the calm, polite, respectful man who asked for permission and treated everyone with delicacy. He was a man possessed by primitive fury, by absolute despair, by the need to protect. "Margaret, Dad, I know you're in there. What are you doing to her?" "Timothy, my son, calm down." Doctor, Charles tried to use that concerned father voice, that tone of paternal authority that always worked with the obedient son, but it was trembling now, fake, transparent. The girl felt sick. You know how brides get nervous. I was just helping, bringing water. Liar. Another blow to the door, stronger. The wood cracked, splinters flying. I heard her scream. I heard the pain in her voice. "Open this door now, or I swear to God I'll break it down." I watched the door breaking. I watched Dr. Charles backing away, the mask of a respectable man falling to pieces along with the door. And for the first time since he had pushed me in there, since he had ripped my dress, since he had pressed that cold thing against my ribs, for the first time I felt something besides paralyzing fear. I felt rage. Rage that burned, that grew, that gave me strength. How dare that man? How dare he humiliate me like that, threaten me, destroy the most important day of my life, all because his sick ego didn't accept losing control over his son. Timothy. I tried to scream, gathering all the strength I had left. My voice came out weak, hoarse from so much terror, but it came out. "Timothy, help me, please." It was enough. It was all my husband needed to hear. Crash. The door exploded inward in an explosion of wood. Hinges ripped out, lock flying. Timothy entered like a hurricane of righteous fury, eyes searching, searching, finding, and what he saw, my dears, what he saw in that moment changed everything. It changed him, changed our relationship with that man, changed the entire future of the Montgomery family. Me leaning against the broken sink, the wedding dress ripped from the neckline almost to the waist, hanging in strips of destroyed satin, trying to cover with trembling hands, tears falling endlessly, the veil twisted, fallen on my forehead, the makeup my sister had done with so much love, completely smeared, and his father a few steps away. Jacket misaligned, hair messy, face red from effort and guilt, sweat running down. Timothy froze for a second. A single second where his brain processed the scene, connected the dots, understood exactly what had happened there. I saw the shock in his eyes. I saw the comprehension. I saw the fury being born, and then, son of a. He didn't even finish the word. There were no words for what he was feeling. He launched himself at his father with a violence I had never seen in any man. This is the moment the veil finally lifts for Timothy, shattering his entire worldview of his father. It's heartbreaking but necessary, and his reaction is about to be as explosive as the situation demands. Stay tuned to see how he handles the monster who raised him. He grabbed his jacket with both hands and pushed him against the bathroom wall with such force that the tiles cracked where Dr. Charles's back hit. The sound was horrible, ceramics breaking, cracking. What did you do to her? What did you do to my wife? Timothy, don't you understand? Dr. Charles tried to explain himself, tried to use that voice of authority, of a father who always knows more, who is always right. This girl is no good for you. She was going to destroy our family. I was trying to protect you from. Shut your mouth. Timothy shook him again. lifting his father off the floor, his feet barely touching the ground, his head hitting the cracked tiles. Protection. You call this protection? Look at her. Look at what you did. It was there that Dr. Charles made his last mistake, his last act of cowardice. His hand went to his jacket, sliding inside, looking for the object hidden there. Was he going to try to threaten his own son now? Or worse, was he going to try to defend himself by shooting? But Timothy was faster. He had all the fury of justice on his side. He saw the movement, understood the deadly intention, and before his father could reach, Timothy grabbed his wrist. He grabbed it with such force I heard the bone cracking and slammed that arm against the sink mirror. The sound was terrible, my dears. Glass exploding into 1,000 sharp pieces, shards flying all over the small bathroom, falling to the floor like crystal rain. And Dr. Charles's scream of pain resonating, high-pitched, human, for the first time, no longer controlled or calculating, just pure pain. Blood started to run immediately from his arm, cut deeply by the mirror glass, deep gashes in the pale skin, bright red welling up and dripping onto the white marble floor, leaving puddles that expanded like macabre flowers, growing too fast. The gun clattered to the floor with a harsh metallic ring. It lay there between the shards of glass and the spreading blood, exposed, undeniable, concrete proof of what that man had done, of what he had planned. Timothy looked at that, stared, processing. Looked at his father, and I saw with absolute clarity the exact moment something inside my husband broke. Filial respect also broke forever. Obedience. The conditioned love he had had all his life for that man. Everything shattered, like that mirror. You were going to, his voice came out low, incredulous, trembling with contained emotion. You were going to kill her on our wedding day. You were going to kill my wife. I was protecting you. Dr. Charles screamed back, holding his wounded arm, blood running between his fingers, staining the expensive suit, protecting our family, our name, our future. From this whore, from this. He didn't finish because Timothy punched his father in the face with all the accumulated force of years of silent oppression. The sound of the nose breaking was clear, horrible, a wet snap, followed by blood gushing. Dr. Charles staggered, hit his back against the wall, slid down to the floor, leaving a trail of bright red blood on the white tiles like abstract painting of righteous violence. But Timothy didn't stop, couldn't stop. His rage was an erupting volcano now accumulated from a lifetime of having to be the perfect son, of having to obey without questioning, of having to accept the sick and tyrannical control. He knelt over his father's body and hit again and again and again. Blood splattered with every impact, soaking his white groom's jacket and speckling the pristine tiles. The bathroom had turned into a scene of brutal, necessary justice. Timothy, stop. I found my voice finally, tearing my wounded throat to scream through tears and terror. Stop. You're going to kill him, Timothy. It wasn't out of pity for Dr. Charles. Let that man rot for all I cared. It was for Timothy, because I knew with absolute certainty that if he killed his father there in that moment of blind fury, he would never forgive himself. He would carry that weight, that guilt for the rest of his life, and I wasn't going to let that monster destroy my husband too. Timothy stopped, froze with his fist in the air, breathing heavily, hands shaking violently, covered in his father's blood. From his own cuts the glass had made when he hit. He was panting, sweating, eyes still blind with fury. Dr. Charles was on the floor, semi-conscious, groaning softly, face unrecognizable from so much blood, nose clearly broken and crooked, jaw dislocated, front teeth broken. Timothy looked at his own bloody hands, looked at his destroyed father on the floor, and then looked at me, and it was as if he woke up from a violent trance. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by his father's ragged breathing. In that moment, Timothy didn't just see a beaten man. He saw the death of the idol he had worshipped all his boyhood. The father he thought he knew was gone, replaced by the monster bleeding on the tile. The rage drained from his eyes in a second, replaced by pure concern, by intense love, by crushing guilt. Margaret. He stood up staggering, legs weak, and came towards me. Margaret, my God, what did he do to you? What did this monster do to you? I collapsed. I simply collapsed. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. All the terror, all the pain, everything came crashing down at once. But before hitting the hard floor, full of glass, he caught me. He caught me in his arms with such care, such delicacy, as if I were made of the most fragile glass in the world. He took off his jacket, the white groom's jacket, now stained with his father's blood, and put it over me, wrapping me, covering the destroyed dress, giving me back a little of the dignity that had been brutally stolen. "I'm so sorry," he whispered against my hair, voice completely broken, tears falling down his face too, now wetting my forehead. "I'm so sorry, my love. I should have protected you. I should have been suspicious. I should have. It wasn't your fault," I managed to say, grabbing his shirt tightly, needing that contact, that safety. "It wasn't. You didn't know." Outside the bathroom, we started to hear alarmed voices, people running, screaming, total confusion. Someone had heard the screams, the noises of the violent fight, the glass breaking. My mom appeared first in the destroyed doorway, still holding a glass of soda she was drinking in the hall. She looked at the scene. Blood everywhere, broken glass shining. Doctor Charles fallen on the floor groaning, me in Timothy's arms with the dress in strips, and the glass fell from her hands shattering on the floor. She brought her hands to her mouth, a moan of pure horror coming out. "Oh my God in heaven. Margaret, my daughter." Behind her came Timothy's cousins, his friends, my brothers, guests, all pushing to see, people screaming, asking what had happened, confusion and total panic. Cousin Olivia ran to call the police. My brother James, always protective, entered and almost went at Dr. Charles again. But my dad stopped him. Someone brought white towels to stop Dr. Charles's blood, not because they pitied him, but because no one wanted a dead body there. No one wanted to turn that into a homicide. Timothy carried me out of that cursed bathroom, took me down the hallway, crossed the hall where the music had stopped, and everyone was standing looking with horror. He took me to the cousin's room. He laid me on the bed with infinite care, as if I could break at any moment. My mom and sisters came running behind, crying, hugging me, asking if I was okay. What had happened? Someone brought a large cotton robe for me to put over the destroyed dress, covering me, giving me warmth. The police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 police officers who were patrolling nearby entered the bathroom. They saw the scene. They picked up the object from the floor carefully. They took Dr. Charles, still semi-conscious, groaning in pain, face swollen and bleeding, handcuffed and straight to the hospital under escort. After being treated, he would be transferred to jail, attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, battery, kidnapping. The list of crimes was long. They took photos of the scene, collected the glass as evidence, asked me questions, but I could barely speak. Words coming out broken between sobs. Timothy answered for me, told everything in minute detail. He hid nothing, didn't protect his father. The party was over, of course. The guests left, all scared, shocked, in silence. My wedding dress, which should have been kept as a precious keepsake, was thrown away. There was no way to save it. It was completely destroyed, stained with blood and horrible memories we could never erase. That night, instead of a romantic honeymoon, I spent it in the hospital. "She has a cracked rib," confirmed the doctor taking x-rays, deep bruises on back and shoulders, severe psychological trauma, but the scars on my soul, my dears, were much harder to treat than the cracked rib. For months, I was a ghost in my own marriage. I flinched when Timothy touched me. Can you imagine the pain of flinching away from the man you love? I saw his father's eyes in my nightmares. But sometimes, God forgive me, I looked at Timothy and felt a flash of that same fear. Trauma is a strange and cruel beast, my dears. It makes us fear the very arms that reach out to heal us, pushing away the people we love most. If any of you are trying to outrun the ghosts of your past like I was, please, be patient with yourself. The heart takes time to learn how to trust again, often much longer than we think. The trauma had built a glass wall between us. I spent nights crying in the bathroom, my own safe bathroom, scrubbing my skin until it was red, trying to wash away the feeling of those rough hands, the smell of cigar smoke and whiskey that seemed to cling to my pores. I felt broken, unworthy of Timothy's patience. I told him once, "You should leave me. I'm damaged goods." But that man, my saint of a husband, he didn't try to fix me with words. He simply sat on the other side of that glass wall and waited. He waited for the winter in my heart to pass. It wasn't a quick fix, my dears. It was a slow, agonizing thaw. It took a year before I could wear a white dress again, without shaking. It took 2 years before the sound of a door slamming didn't send me diving under the table. But it was in that darkness that I found a strength I didn't know I had. I learned that survival isn't a straight line. It's a messy, tangled road. But as long as you keep walking, you eventually find the light. 3 days after the wedding, the police came to the cousin's house to take my official statement. 2 detectives came. An older man with a gray mustache and a young woman, Detective Sarah, who was the one who talked to me the most. She sat on the edge of the bed, held my hand, and with a soft voice asked me to tell everything from the beginning. It was hard, my dears, very hard to have to relive all that, describe every detail, every word he said, everything he did. I cried a lot while telling. Timothy was by my side, squeezing my other hand. Detective Sarah didn't rush me, let me cry, gave me time. "You are very brave," she said when I finished. "And I want you to know we are going to do everything to guarantee he pays for this. We already have the weapon, photos of the scene, the destroyed dress as evidence, your husband's testimony, the documented injuries. It's a solid case. He's going to pay." "Is he going to get out of jail?" I asked, with voice trembling. "Not if I can help it," she replied firmly. "Given the severity of the charges, attempted murder, kidnapping, assault, he's looking at a very long sentence. Margaret, and he was, my dears." The trial was 6 months later, in September 1968. It was in a courthouse in Port Townsend. All formal, with judge, prosecutor, lawyers, jury. I had to testify sitting in that high chair in front of everyone, with Dr. Charles sitting there on the other side of the room, looking at me with hate. He was different, thinner, pale, nose crooked even after being operated on, some scars on his face. But the eyes remained cold. I told everything again in front of strangers. The prosecutor asked me questions. Dr. Charles's lawyer tried to intimidate me, suggest I was exaggerating, that it had been a misunderstanding. But Detective Sarah had done too good a job. The evidence was undeniable. Timothy testified too, described what he saw when he broke down that door. The doctors presented reports of my injuries, of Dr. Charles's injuries, which indicated violent fight. The jury took 3 hours to deliberate. They were the 3 longest hours of my life. Timothy and I, sitting on those hard courthouse chairs, holding hands, waiting, praying. When they returned, the jury foreman stood up. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts." I crumbled in tears. Timothy hugged me tight. Behind us, my mom and sisters were crying too. On the other side, Dr. Charles turned white, grabbed the table, tried to argue, but the officers were already coming for him. The judge banged the gavel. "Charles Montgomery, I sentence you to 15 years in prison, without possibility of parole in the first 8 years. 15 years, my dears. He was going to be in prison until 1983. He would be an old man when he got out. If he got out. We left the courthouse that September day with the sun shining bright, and for the first time in months, I felt I could breathe properly. I could walk down the street without fear of looking back. I could sleep without waking up screaming every night. "It's over," whispered Timothy, hugging me right there on the courthouse steps. "It's over, my love. He can't hurt you anymore." Seeing justice served against a man who thought he was untouchable is incredibly satisfying. But as Margaret knows, a prison sentence doesn't instantly heal the scars on the soul. The way she and Timothy rebuild their lives is the most inspiring part of this story. So keep listening. We rented a simple little house in a neighborhood in Port Townsend. 2 rooms, kitchen, bathroom, a little patio. It wasn't anything luxurious, but it was ours. Timothy worked hard as a lawyer, taking small cases at first, building a reputation. I went back to sewing, just like my mom. I started hemming pants for neighbors, then simple dresses, then baby layettes. We made new friends in the neighborhood. Simple, hardworking people who didn't know about our story, who treated us like any normal young couple. Mrs. Nancy, the neighbor from the house across the street, became almost a second mother to me. She taught me recipes I didn't know. She called me to have coffee at her house. She comforted me on difficult days. "You are strong, girl. she told me, stirring sugar in the coffee. Look at everything you survived. Look at yourself here standing, rebuilding. That is true strength. In 1969, a year and a bit after the wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. Ah, my dears, what joy it was. Timothy and I cried together when the doctor confirmed. It was a true new beginning, a new life growing inside me, a symbol that love had conquered hate, that hope had conquered terror. My oldest son, Joshua, was born in January 1970. He looked just like his dad. Honey-colored eyes, dark hair, wide smile. When I put that baby in my arms for the first time, I felt it had been worth it. Everything had been worth it. All the pain, all the suffering, all the struggle had brought me there, to that perfect moment. Timothy was a wonderful father from the first day. He woke up in the middle of the night to change diapers, to rock when Joshua cried, to let me rest. You already did the hard part, he said, rocking the baby. Let me do mine. Other children came afterwards. Emily in 1972, Michael in 1974. Our little house got small. We moved to a bigger one. Timothy's firm grew. My sewing became known in the region. Little by little, very slowly, we built a good, honest life, full of love. We never spoke to Dr. Charles again. He sent letters from prison at first, trying to justify himself, asking his son for forgiveness. Timothy tore them all up without reading. He stopped being my father the day he put that gun against you, he told me. That man died in that bathroom. In 1983, when Dr. Charles finally got out of prison, he was already old, sick. He tried to get in contact again. He sent an acquaintance to talk to Timothy, asking to see the grandchildren. The answer was no. A firm, definitive no. My children will never meet the monster who tried to kill their mother, said Timothy. Dr. Charles died alone in 1,986 inches, a nursing home in Port Townsend. Timothy didn't even go to the funeral. I told him he could go if he wanted, that I would understand. But he shook his head. My place is here, with you, with our children. It always was, it always will be. And it was in that moment, my dears, so many years after that horrible night, that finally I felt I had freed myself completely. The monster had died, I had survived, and more than that, I had won. I had built a beautiful family, a full life. I had transformed trauma into strength, fear into courage. And here I am, my dears, at 76 years old, still here in Port Townsend, in the same town where I lived the worst and best moments of my life. This town saw me broken and saw me reborn, saw me crying in pain and saw me smiling with joy. And it is here that I chose to stay, because here I built my true story. I live in a little house in the Uptown district now, not too far from that first little house where we started. It's a simple 3-bedroom house with that patio I showed you at the beginning, full of my hydrangeas. I bought this house in 1998, when Timothy finally managed to save enough money after years of working hard. It was an achievement, you know? A house of our own paid for without owing anything to anyone. Timothy, my dear Timothy, passed away 2 years ago, in 2023. Pancreatic cancer. It came fast. Didn't even give time to prepare well. It was 55 years of marriage, my dears. 55 years beside the man who saved me, who loved me, who built a beautiful family with me. Not a day goes by that I don't miss him. Not a morning goes by that I don't look at the empty side of the bed and feel that tightness in my chest. But he left me so much good, so much love, so many happy memories, and left me our family, our 3 children and 5 grandchildren, who are the reason for my living today. Joshua lives here in Port Townsend itself, works as a history teacher at the high school. He married Fernanda, who is a nurse, and they gave me 2 grandkids. Caleb is 12, and Harper is 10. They come here every Saturday without fail. Joshua helps me with the heavy things around the house, changing light bulbs, fixing faucets, those things I can no longer do alone. Harper loves helping me water the hydrangeas. She stands there asking 1,000 questions about every flower. Emily moved to Portland years ago. She works in an accounting firm. She married Travis and gave me the twins, Mason and Mia, 8 years old. They come to visit me once a month. They stay the whole weekend. Oh, what a delightful mess those 2 make. They run through the patio, play hide and seek among the flowers. They ask me to make grilled cheese because Grandma makes the best grilled cheese in the world, according to them. Michael, my spoiled one, lives in Seattle. He is an engineer. He married Patricia, and they gave me Lily, who is the littlest granddaughter, 5 years old. They don't come as often because of the distance, but when they come, they stay for at least a week. Lily is clingy. She stays in my lap the whole time asking me to tell stories, but she wants stories of princesses and magic, not the sad, real-life stories Grandma carries in her heart. She says, "Grandma, tell me about the castle again," and I always oblige. But enough about the grandkids. My routine today is simple. I get up early around 6 inches the morning, although I no longer have an obligation to get up early. The body got used to it over a lifetime. I make my strong coffee, grab a glazed cinnamon roll, and come out here to the patio overlooking the garden. I stay watching the little birds that come to drink water in the fountain that Joshua installed for me. There are sparrows, finches, even hummingbirds sometimes. After coffee, I come to care for the hydrangeas. It is my therapy, watering each one, talking to them. Yes, I talk to my flowers. You can laugh all you want. I prune the dry leaves and fertilize them when needed. The white ones represent the most to me now. I plant them in memory of the dress I lost, transformed into something beautiful and pure again. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go to the seniors group here in the neighborhood. We meet in the church hall, do crafts, play dominoes, talk about life. I have my friends there, Mrs. Nancy, Mrs. Teresa, Mrs. Carmen, warrior women like me, each with her story of overcoming, each one who survived something difficult and chose to keep living with joy. On Wednesdays, I go to physical therapy. I have some little problems with my knee, arthritis, those things of age. But I go walking anyway because the doctor said it's good for circulation. I stop at Mr. Joe's market on the way back. I buy the week's little things. He always gives me a discount. He says it's because I'm a long-time customer. But I know it's because he has a good heart. In the afternoon, I still like to sew. I no longer do it for orders like before, but I make little clothes for the grandkids, some embroidered kitchen towels. Those things. Keeps the hands busy, the mind active, and reminds me of my mom, of her Singer machine, where it all began. At night, I eat dinner early, usually a little soup or a simple rice and beans, and watch my soap operas. Yes, I am a declared soap opera fan, and afterwards I go up to the bedroom, read a little, say my rosary and sleep. I sleep well now, my dears, without nightmares, without scares, just peaceful dreams. Sometimes with Timothy visiting me, always young, always smiling. On Sundays, I go to the 9 o'clock Mass. I have always been Catholic, always had my faith, and it was that faith that sustained me in the most difficult moments. I always sit in the same pew, on the left side, 3rd row. I pray for my children, for my grandchildren, for Timothy up in heaven, for my whole family, and I thank a lot every Sunday for having survived, for having had the opportunity to live this long life full of love. When I look back at everything I went through, sometimes it doesn't even seem like it happened to me, It seems like another person's story from another time. That one 8-year-old girl, terrified in a bathroom, seems so distant from the 6-year-old lady I am today, calm amidst her flowers. But it was me, yes, and every scar, the physical ones that already disappeared, the emotional ones that still exist deep down, remind me that I am strong, that I survived, that I won. I look at my grandkids playing in the patio, at my children who grew up good and honest, at this simple little house, but full of love. And I know it was worth it. Every tear, every pain, every moment of fear, everything was worth it to get here. And it is here, on this patio, amidst my hydrangeas, with the smell of coffee in the air and the noise of the little birds singing, that I am happiest. It is here that I live my grandma life, simple, humble, but so full of meaning. It is here that I won, my dears. Every day, I won. Winning didn't mean seeing him suffer, although justice was served. Winning meant reclaiming the joy he tried to steal. Margaret's journey from victim to survivor is a powerful reminder that true strength often comes after our darkest moments. Her story isn't just about survival. It's about reclaiming the right to be happy. If her courage touched your heart, let us know in the comments. For a long time, I hated him with a fire that consumed me. But hate is a heavy stone to carry in your pocket, my dears. Eventually, I had to put it down, Not for him, but for me. I didn't forgive the monster for what he did, but I forgave the frightened girl I was for not being able to stop him. This was the greatest lesson of my life. We often punish ourselves for not being stronger or smarter in the moment of danger. But listen to Grandma. Forgiving yourself is the only key that unlocks that dark prison door. Don't carry the heavy stones of the past into your future. You deserve to be free. I forgave myself for being a victim. And that, my friends, was the moment the cage finally opened. Do you know what this story taught me, my dears? That danger doesn't always come from where one expects. I spent my whole life hearing that a woman had to be afraid of a violent husband, of the stranger in the street, of the dangerous unknown. But who almost killed me was the father-in-law, the father of the man I loved, someone who should protect me for being part of his family. And that I want you to understand. Abuse has no certain face, has no social class, has no prior notice, can be dressed in an expensive suit, can live in a big house, can have a degree on the wall. The monster is not just the drunk on the corner. Sometimes it is the respected doctor of the city. But I also learned that true love protects. Timothy could have chosen his father, could have believed the lies, could have abandoned me, but he chose the truth, chose justice, chose me, and that changed everything. Because when someone loves you truly, my dears, that someone doesn't stay on the fence when there is danger, that someone kicks down the door. My beloved dears, before we say goodbye, I just want to share one last piece of advice. If you find someone who dares to stand against the whole world to protect you, cherish them. But if anyone ever hurts you or makes you live in fear, please have the courage to walk away. Run far away and never look back. Justice is real, as long as you don't give up. I have one small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button right now. Do it not for me, but for all the women out there who are still searching for the light. Every single subscription sends a message to them saying, you are not alone. We are standing right beside you. And to let me know you listened until the very end, please leave a comment with the word courage. Trust me, the storm will pass. No matter how vast the darkness may seem, the light within your heart shines much brighter. One day, you will smile again in your own peaceful garden, just like I am today. I love and cherish you all so much. Goodbye, my dears.